and welcome to She Thinks, a podcast where you're allowed to think for yourself. I'm your host, Beverly Hallberg, and on today's episode, the Bass sisters join us to discuss the Black vote. We're going to dissect part of Joe Biden's campaign strategy, which is focused on keeping Black Americans voting Democratic and whether or not his message is resonating. We're also going to tap into their entrepreneurial spirit, learning the tactical business lessons that have helped them beat recessions, depressions, and global pandemics. As we bring them on a little bit more about the Bass sisters, Dee Bass Wilbon and Deana Bass Williams are founders and partners of Bass Public Affairs. They are sought after public speakers and have shared their opinions on a wide range of political issues on national and international media outlets. They are the authors of the book Prayer and Pound Cake, and they co-host a weekly podcast called Policy and Pound Cake. The Bass sisters, it's great to have you on the program today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So my first question, I really want to know about the significance of pound cake. It's in the name of your book. It's the name of your podcast, especially as so many people are starting New Year's resolutions. What do we need to know about pound cake?
Well, let's see. Pound cake. Our mother makes an amazing pound cake.
The best pound
cake. And neither of us know the recipe to the pound cake. Only my 16-year-old daughter and our mom knows the recipe to the pound cake.
How did your daughter get the recipe?
She stays close to her nana. She's right with her nana doing the making of the pound cake in the kitchen. But we have the best conversations around pound cake and our mother's kitchen table, and it's been for a very long time. And so we thought that it made sense to add pound cake to it, because when we talk policy and everything, we love to have a nice slice of Mama's homemade pound cake.
Now, does she ever do any flavored pound cakes, or is it just butter flavor?
Just, we don't even know what's in the pound cake. We definitely believe that there's a lot of butter in it. And she does do a caramel glaze, but most of the time it is truly just the pound cake, and it is heavenly.
And it does. I do love pound cake, by the way. It does bring up a really good point, though, and that is the importance of conversations that do happen around the kitchen table, that happen in the kitchen when people are breaking bread together and eating together. I know that you have a public affairs firm. You focus on communication. We're in an era right now where there seems to be a lot of lack of civility in how we converse with each other. How do you think we can get back to talking with each other instead of talking at each other?
Well, first of all, we do believe that it's important to have, everything about the foundation of our public affairs firm is based on civil discourse in the public square. We also believe in celebrating diverse thoughts. We are, I think that most people who talk to us will understand that we are very opinionated, but we celebrate opinions. And so one of the things that concerns us is this march towards eliminating free speech, eliminating civil discourse, and so we are leaning in, planting our feet, making sure that we are talking to, we don't believe in living in an echo chamber, but we also believe that when we leave our echo chamber, we should have civil discourse. And so that is, our motto is attack policy, not people. Dee wears the t-shirt. We believe that, free markets, free people, we're definitely free market entrepreneurs. But today we are just terrified, quite frankly, by what we see as a suppression of free speech. And we are conservatives, and we do see it coming from the left on voices on the right. And so we have created a platform, BPA Livewire, because we want to celebrate diverse thoughts in the public square, particularly in the African-American community.
And Deana and I, even though we agree on practically everything, we do disagree. And like she was saying, we welcome the different opinions because we want to hear. That's the only way that we can learn and we can grow as individuals and as a people and as a nation. So we have to hear what other people are saying.
And let me just say this really quickly. One of the things that has shocked us over the last 4 or 5 years, the number of people who we love, people who have known us from, childhood, who have unfriended us, blocked our phone numbers, canceled us because of our opinions, particularly because of the way we've been voting. But we have been involved in politics since, you know, Dee Dee's older, since she was 12 and I was 11.
Exactly.
And so we worked on our first campaign, 1985, elected.
The first Black woman to city council in Columbus, Georgia, Rose Strong.
She happened to be a Republican.
But Deana and I, the thing is, even though we have been unfriended and, like she said, canceled, those opinions of those individuals, we still love them. We still celebrate them and whatever they do. And because we know that just because we're different, we don't have to not like people because we disagree on something.
And our opinions are made sharper. We are made smarter. We are better human beings when we are in conversation with people who disagree with us.
Exactly.
So this tendency to only want to hear from people who agree with every single thing every single one of your opinions is obnoxious to us. Dr. Carson, who is a friend, he's a mentor, a friend. We love him. We worked for him. He says that if two people have the same opinion, then one of us is not necessary. You know what I mean? And we firmly believe that. So.
Exactly.
And so how did you get involved in politics? How did you figure out you were free market conservatives? What was that process like for you?
Well, like Deana said, we started when I was 12 and she was 11. I'm the oldest by a year and 6 months. But our mother was invited to a meeting, and Deana and I, we have been working in politics since then. And we in Columbus, Georgia, doing lit drops, phone calls after leaving, after high school. After school, we would go and work in the Rose Strong campaign. And it's always been something our mother always wanted us to hear and understand what was going on, not only in our school and in our church, but in the community that we lived in. And that was very, very important to her, and it still is today.
Yeah. And so we've been conservatives all of our life. We have been conservatives. My mom, our mom was invited to a Republican meeting. And so because of that, one thing, but we are conservatives. We are people of faith that we are Christians, and we're comfortable saying that. We want all people of faith to be able to say openly that they have a faith or that they have no faith. But today it is very uncomfortable for people to say that they're Christians. We have been shocked by the anti-Semitism that is just growing and growing, and
we don't understand.
Don't understand it, and we strongly advocate for our Jewish friends to be able to celebrate their faith, because we will celebrate ours.
Absolutely.
So, like
wherever we are.
So we fight for everyone to have the freedom to celebrate their faith, because you are not, the one thing you're not going to do,
right,
is tell us that we can't celebrate ours. So.
And of course, when people think about women, often they think you must be liberal if you're a female. And then when you think about a Black female, you have to be liberal. Are people typically shocked when you talk about your political alignment, your free market mentality? And what do you say to people if they have an issue with it?
People are shocked.
They are.
But this is the thing, Beverly, when we break it down, and this is why conversations are so important.
Exactly.
When we break down our belief that we should be compensated fairly for our labor, that an idea that's born here and taken to market, that we should be compensated for. That's what, that is the bottom line of free markets. And when we talk to people in that way, when we talk about, people think that a tax break means that you're getting money back. No, it was my money in the first place.
Right.
So when we talk to people about, no, this is my money in the first place.
Exactly.
And like a tax cut, it's not a tax cut. It started off my money.
Right. And she's right. When we actually have a conversation with people and they listen and we're talking to them and they're looking at us and they're like, oh, it's like a light goes off. I get it.
And when we talk about like the definition of woman, like basic issues like that, this is one of the reasons why we love Independent Women's Forum. The work that you're doing on protecting women, Title IX, girls in sports. We will follow you guys anywhere on these issues, because you are credible, you're strong, you're clear.
And it's, like Deana said, it's common sense, to be honest. I have a 16-year-old daughter who plays lacrosse, and she is just Amazing. She is like on fire, and she is such a great lacrosse player. And the idea that her playing lacrosse could be compromised by having someone who just identifies as a girl completely terrifies me. And it also terrifies her, and she understands it. And so that's, those types of things like that are so vastly important to us and to our family.
And so this is a hodgepodge, but these are the common sense conversations that take place over pound cake. And we believe, as you started off this podcast, we believe in civil discourse and having just real conversations with people. And when you have real conversations with people about these very issues, the cost of eggs, the cost of butter,
gas,
these issues, the solutions tend to be conservative solutions, and we're comfortable saying that.
Well, IWF loves the support that people give to us, but also when fellow women love to speak out. So we know you're strong voices, and we appreciate what you do. One of the mottos at IWF is all issues are women's issues. I'm going to add to that. All issues are Black American issues. Like you were just talking about the cost of butter and eggs and things related to even men being able to compete with women. These are common sense things that people really care about. And so the question I have for you is, we look at some of the polling is showing that fewer and fewer Democrats are wanting to vote for Joe Biden. What do you make of the Black vote, maybe going to Trump, maybe going to an independent? What do you think's happening?
Well, you know what? We've been looking at the polls as well, and quite frankly, Joe Biden has been sinking.
He has.
Vice President Harris has also been sinking, and it is because, first of all, they have a playbook that they go to, and it's anyone who doesn't agree with them is a racist, and they see white supremacy as the greatest threat in modern history. They see it as the greatest threat to on this very day. We don't see that, and I think most Black Americans do not see that.
Right. And actually, when you look at the numbers, everyone always say the numbers never lie, but the numbers are really, really quite clear. When you look at the numbers, Economist YouGov poll, it states that Donald Trump is viewed by Black voters at a 19% favorable rating. That's huge. That's huge.
And so, like, if 19% of Black Americans are, and not, Donald Trump may not be the nominee, but he's certainly the presumptive nominee at this point. But if 19% of Black Americans see this candidate who is being pummeled by the left as favorable, that is, the Democrats are in deep trouble. Democrats have built their entire platform on the Black vote.
Right.
If they do not get upward of 90% of the Black vote and 98% of Black women,
exactly,
it's game over.
Totally.
But they only have one play, and that is racism. And go Google President Joe Biden's racial gaffes, right? So they need to clean up their own issues. But when you go to regular mom and dads, and I'm a pink professional aunt, no kids, but when you go to regular mom and dads, they're not worried about racism as much as they're worried about.
We're worried about keeping our kids safe. We're worried about the border. We want to make sure that our children, our daughters, are safe. We want to make sure that we can pay for eggs and gas and milk and not break the bank in doing so.
Regular people are we were in the grocery store this holiday season with my mom, and I'm not a big shopper, or I don't cook.
About the chicken.
The chicken, the eggs.
The chicken was absolutely,
it was crazy.
Insane.
And we are not, like, we're not struggling, but we think about families who are living really difficult lives. And I'm not even kidding. Like, the cost of butter gave me whiplash. It was like, it's insane.
It is insane.
Pound cake is really expensive to make right now. Right. Pound cake costs a lot.
Pound cake costs a lot. And regular working class Americans, you ask what are Black Americans concerned about? The same thing that all Americans are concerned about. Right. They want to pretend that everything's better. The the economy is picking up. I don't feel it. Most people do not feel it. So this is why there's a separation between these poll numbers are disturbing for Democrats.
And when you talk about other things, if you're talking about like illegal immigration, 35% of Blacks are very concerned about that migration of immigrants coming across the border and not keeping the border safe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very, very important. And that's just not Black voters. That's all voters are concerned,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Well, I definitely think Democrats are concerned because Barack Obama, there was that report that he got very animated with the Biden team saying that they needed to do more and be more savvy in this campaign. I do think it's interesting that what Joe Biden is focused on so far since he has announced his candidacy to run again is he has talked about Donald Trump. He's talked about January 6th, and then he has talked about racial issues. He thinks he might win on all these issues. I know with a lot of Democrats going against Donald Trump probably is a winning message. With Black Americans focusing on the Civil War, focusing on slavery, focusing on whether or not this country is systemically racist, how does that compute with a lot of Black Americans, especially when you're talking about they're dealing with just everyday issues, just trying to afford the food that they put on their table?
They're exhausted about hearing it. I honestly think so. I mean, when you talk to parents like moms like me, like Deana was saying, in Panks, and just regular everyday Black Americans, we're exhausted. It happened, and those things were awful. But we are really looking ahead, right?
Right.
We're looking ahead to make things better, and constantly bringing and talking about that is really getting to be very, very exhausting.
And there's like the Black intelligentsia that may want to stick with that message, but the rank and file Black Americans do not
at all.
And do we care about voting rights? Absolutely. But the idea that voting is at a dangerous level the way it was during the Civil Rights Movement, that's not true. And we know it's not true. We know it's not true because we see the number of African-American voters, Black voters,
young Black voters,
the increase in numbers, the access, the different ways that you can vote, early voting by mail, like the idea. So they use that suppression of the vote.
And right. I was going to say the suppression of the vote. They're trying to say that in regards to now that you have to show an ID to vote. We're okay with showing
70% of Black Americans are okay. They believe
showing an ID that you have to vote. They're like that makes sense.
What Black Americans, like most Americans, are not comfortable with is this idea that people who are not citizens would have the right to vote in our elections.
Exactly.
So there's a playbook. They use it all the time, but it is being exposed. Look at the polls. They are in danger.
Mm-hmm.
They know that they're treading. They're not even treading water. They're sinking.
They're sinking fast.
But the reality is that if they do anything other than this playbook, then they will have to turn to the results.
It's not there. So therefore, they have to hold on to those three things and continue to play them over and over and over and over again. Because, like Deana said, if they don't, then you
have to look at the cost of eggs and the cost of gas.
Right. And well, I think it's telling that the incumbent president isn't focusing on his record the past 3 years. He's not talking about the economy. He's just talking about Donald Trump and January 6th and racial issues in the country. That's what
he knows that he doesn't have a record to stand on.
Exactly.
And his entire team knows that. And therefore, every speech that you hear, I've been in the car today and yesterday, and the same thing that I hear on the radio is Biden talking about Donald Trump and January 6th. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I also want to transition to the fact that you are very entrepreneurial. You have your own business. We love business of female business owners here at IWF. And you have a really interesting book. It's called Prayer and Pound Cake, which I mentioned in the introduction. And it shares tactical business lessons that have helped you all beat recessions, depressions, global pandemics. What are some of the most important lessons learned that can help fellow entrepreneurs out there who have had to go through so many challenges, especially during the era of COVID and the expense of running a business today?
I would say the book was so much fun to write, first of all, and we really enjoyed doing it and looking forward to doing some more. But I think that for Deana and I, in terms of our business, making sure that we are so focused on our goal of how we want to achieve everything that we do.
Right. And our goal, like we have a very clear when we always say when we started this business, we are a public affairs firm, and we would take any client that was legal and that would pay us, because we were afraid of losing business. But when we began to actually hone and focus our business, as Dee Dee said, our goal, like understanding what our true mission is, staying in our lane and understanding that our lane is a super highway. Staying in our lane was the most important thing, and also knowing our value.
Right. And that's very important, especially for women in business, because you want to make sure that you know exactly who you are and what your time is worth, and what you have to offer to your clients. And if you know your value, then no matter what, no one can, what we say, nickel and dime you down your prices or whatever, because you know exactly the type of work that you're able to produce for your clients. And there's one particular story in the book.
Don't give them, no, you can't give that story. You
just one story
to get the story.
One little story. Well, let me ask you
that one of the things that we like, this book is a book that has strategy, but it also has prayer. And I know that again is that for us, it is like our business is successful for a number of reasons, but we really do believe that we're passionate about family-owned businesses, but we're also passionate about prayer. And so we don't use it as a genie lamp. And I know that this is a policy conversation, but for us, the policy is we can't live without prayer. That's our policy. Separate it. So and that's again why for us as a business, like our business, the foundation of it is really freedom of expression, freedom of, like, for us to be able to go into the marketplace, like,
and be who we are.
We say that we don't sell widgets, we sell ideas. But for us to be able to go into the marketplace and champion ideas, that is because of a country that celebrates people of all different faiths. We really believe that religious liberties and freedom of expression is the hill that we'll die on. It is the very foundation of our business.
So I really want to pick up on something that you said in that answer, and that was talking about women need to know their value. Why do women struggle with this more than men? I realize that's a broad generalization, but I think it's true. I don't have a stat to back it up. Why do women struggle with this?
Oh, gosh.
I wish we knew.
We have a mom. Our mom is so strong. She is, she's so encouraging. She's so supportive. She is our biggest cheerleader. She's also a praying woman. And again, that is just part of who we are. And we believe that because of our mother's prayers, since before we were born, Deana and I, we're who we are, and we're where we are because of it.
But as far as women, you know, Dee and I always laugh. In the last 4-5 years, we've worked with probably 3 or 4 men who actually believe that they should run for president of the United States of America. And these are highly accomplished men, but they firmly believe that they should run for president of the United States.
But we also have to mention that these 3 men, none of these men have ever worked in politics at all, period. But they just believe,
because they're born with a confidence that is that we don't understand. But
and men and women are different, which is a good thing. God made us different, so that's good. But I also think God wants us to be confident as well. And so I think that's an important part. But I think it's when I coach women and men, I see a huge difference about even women being confident in media interviews that I prepare them for. They struggle a lot more with that confidence. So I just think it touches on a really important part. And before we go, I do have one final question. This is a question for Deana. I couldn't leave this conversation without mentioning that you won a hula hoop contest in Charleston, South Carolina in 1995. I found that out looking at your bio. How many hula hoop circles, how do you say the amount of times it goes around, did you do to win that contest?
It was, I don't know how many times around, but it was for about 45 minutes. So it was a long time, but that is not I have hula hooped for 2 hours before. So that is my record, 2 hours. But yeah, it was just a little old thing,
How does one get into hula hooping like you do? It's impressive.
Actually,
I don't know how you've been hula hooping since you were like, I don't know.
Every office that I've ever had,
she would always take a hula hoop with her. I mean, and
you can't be sad when you're hula hooping.
No.
So it's
very
just
true.
And yeah, it's just a way to bring joy.
Well, they say when you're moving, you think better. Your brain works better. So that's just when you do your most creative thinking.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
That is so true.
Well, I want to thank you
for
both.
about 5 seconds.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you both for joining us and also just for being strong women, standing up for the values and the policy issues that you care about. We so appreciate that at IWF. Dee Bass Wilbon and Deana Bass Williams of Bass Public Affairs. It was a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you
so much.
And thank you all for joining us once again. IWF does want you to know that we rely on the generosity of supporters like you. An investment in IWF fuels our efforts to enhance freedom, opportunity, and well-being for all Americans. So please consider making a small donation to IWF by visiting iwf.org/donate. That is iwf.org/donate. Last, if you enjoyed this episode of She Thinks, do leave us a rating or a review. It does help. And we love it if you shared this episode so your friends can know where they can find more She Thinks. From all of us here at IWF, thanks for watching.